Two incidents shocked the nation in a matter of days, drawing both outrage and admiration, unfolding like scenes from a gripping drama where those sworn to serve and protect crossed a line only to be confronted by unexpected forces of discipline, strength, and dignity. In a quiet suburb of Jacksonville, Florida, 39-year-old Marine veteran Marcus Hill stood grieving beside a roadside memorial for his late brother. A fellow serviceman lost to suicide. It was late evening, and Marcus had lit a small candle and stood in silent reflection. A neighbor, misinterpreting his behavior, called 911 to report a suspicious man. Within minutes, police arrived. According to body cam footage and witnesses, officers approached Marcus with aggressive questioning. Confused and emotionally overwhelmed, he tried to explain, but his voice cracked and he struggled to hold back tears. When he failed to provide ID immediately, tensions escalated. One officer, citing noncompliance, deployed a taser. Marcus fell to the ground, convulsing, the candles scattering in the dirt beside him. 10 minutes later, a dark Humvee pulled up. 4 U.S. Marines in uniform stepped out. It was Marcus's old unit. Alerted by a friend who had been tracking Marcus's mental health for weeks, the Marines, composed but visibly angry, stepped between the officers and Marcus, demanding immediate medical attention for their brother. The police, visibly shaken by the arrival of active duty Marines in full dress, backed off. Cell phone footage of the event spread online within hours. The image of Marines lifting Marcus to his feet became a symbol of loyalty beyond the battlefield and sparked a nationwide conversation about how law enforcement treats veterans, especially those dealing with PTSD and grief. Meanwhile, in another part of the country, Pasadena, California, 38-year-old Kenya Thomas, a black woman and former Army K-9 handler, found herself surrounded by police after a neighbor claimed she was acting aggressive toward a parking enforcement officer. Kenya, in gym clothes and standing on her own property, was stunned as 3 squad cars pulled up and officers began shouting commands. But what the officers didn't realize was that behind the security fence stood 2 massive Belgian military trained service dogs who had served with Kenya overseas. As officers advanced with hands near their weapons, Kenya calmly gave her dogs a command. They stepped forward, not aggressively, but in formation, muscles taut, eyes fixed on the threat. The officers froze. A tense silence followed, broken only by Kenya's steady voice informing them that she was a decorated Army veteran. These were registered military service animals, and they were prepared to defend her if necessary. The officers hesitated clearly, untrained in handling such a scenario. One of them made a call. Soon after, a ranking officer arrived and de-escalated the situation, instructing the others to stand down. Kenya's neighbor recorded the entire incident, and the video soon went viral. The online community hailed Kenya's calmness and the dog's restraint, comparing the poise of military training to the aggression of poorly executed policing. In both stories, the tension between law enforcement and those who had once served in uniform themselves reached a boiling point. These were not isolated cases, experts pointed out. Across the country, veterans, especially veterans of color, disproportionately affected by police encounters that escalate quickly due to misunderstandings, bias, or poor crisis training. For Marcus, the arrival of his former unit was not just a coincidence. It was part of an informal support network many veterans rely on when navigating mental health crises. After the death of his brother, Marcus had been in a fragile emotional state. His fellow Marines, sensing something was wrong through his messages and social media posts, tracked him using GPS and mutual contacts. Their intervention likely saved his life. Kenya's story highlighted the often overlooked transition many service members face when returning to civilian life. Despite her record and training, she was perceived as a threat in her own neighborhood. Her dogs, instead of being seen as protectors, were initially feared as potential weapons. But the discipline they demonstrated and Kenya's composure turned a potentially tragic confrontation into a powerful moment of resistance and pride. In the aftermath, Both Marcus and Kenya were interviewed by major news outlets. Marcus spoke slowly, still recovering, but firm in his criticism. They saw a black man grieving and thought threat, not pain, he said. Kenya was more direct. You don't stop being a soldier just because you're home. And you sure as hell don't forget how to stand your ground. Public outcry followed. Advocacy groups called for better police training and handling veterans, including specialized protocols for interacting with those suffering from PTSD. Others emphasized the need to confront racial biases that lead to the criminalization of normal behavior, particularly in black communities. Marcus was later awarded a local medal of recognition by his city council, and his story was shared widely among veteran support networks. Kenya launched a local initiative that connects former military K-9 handlers with law enforcement agencies to provide training in non-lethal control and restraint. Perhaps the most haunting detail is how quickly both situations could have ended in tragedy, and how little it took to prevent it. 10 minutes, 2 dogs, 4 uniforms. In each case, what stood between another headline and a moment of justice was presence of mind, of discipline, of brotherhood. As America continues to reckon with its fractured relationship between military service, race, and policing, stories like Marcus's and Kenya's serve as powerful reminders that courage does not always wear a badge, and that sometimes justice arrives not with flashing lights, but in quiet defiance and unwavering calm.